Hello, I'm Phil Hall and welcome to this digital photo video tutorial. I want to show you how to create a striking composite image. For this composite image, we're going to place a shot of a Corvette on a new background, making a much more impressive image than the original. As you can see, the original shot of the Corvette has been lit well, but the background isn't perfect. What we want to do is replace this with something much more in keeping with the car, something much more dramatic. A brooding dark sky perhaps, with the Corvette reflected in some water would do the trick. So, with an idea formed on how we want our composite image to look, we can now start thinking about how we're going to achieve this. In this case, a suitable new backdrop along with a displacement map that we can apply as a fill to produce a realistic reflection is needed, and they're supplied free on this month's CD. We now need to bring these elements together, with the key to get the separate parts to look right once blended together. To help you out, we've already made a selection of the Corvette using the pen tool, so with that done, let's get started. Right, what I'm going to do is get a shot of this original picture, and we can now start work on our composite image. So what I'd like you to do is bring up background.jpg. I'm going to do the same, there it is, and as you can see, it's not a very good shot as a standalone image. It doesn't really work, but for what we need it for, it's perfect. It's got a pretty good sky that I'm going to talk more about in a moment, and then the foreground is pretty plain and simple, so we can easily slap a Corvette on and then we can make our reflection and get a really nice looking composite image. But first, let's talk about the skies. That was quite stormy. I'd like to really enhance that, and I'm going to do that with levels, but first I'm going to have to make a selection of the sky, and then we can do that. So if you want to go to your toolbox, select the rectangular marquee tool, that one there, and then click and drag out from the top left along until you reach the middle pylon and then release. So we've just got marching ants running around there like that. Okay, with our selection mode, we want to feather that selection so we've got smooth graduation from our adjusted area to the unadjusted area. So if you're using an earlier version of Photoshop, you just want to go to select feather. But as I'm using CS3, I'm going to click on refine edge. I get this pop-up box up here, and I want to enter a feather pixel count of around about 125. So that's done. I'm going to hit OK, and we've now got our feathered selection. So I can now apply some levels to this area here and really get that sky looking a lot better with a lot more impact. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments, Levels, and we've got our pop-up box here. First thing I'm going to do is get the left hand arrow and then just drag it inwards towards the histogram, and as I do that, it darkens down the sky really nicely and really enhances the mood of the shot. Just going to get the right hand arrow and just drag it in again to the histogram to that first point there. And as you can see, if I click off preview, what it was like originally and what it's like now, it's made a massive difference, and that's really going to help make this shot stand out. So I'm going to hit OK and then get rid of that selection by hitting Ctrl D. What I want to do now is make a reflection of the sky, and all I'm going to do that is quickly make a selection using the rectangular marquee tool again. Just drag it out until it sort of covers about 2/3 of the shot, so if you can see the horses, it's just below them. Now what I'm going to do is copy this, so I'm going to hit Ctrl C to copy, and then I'm going to hit Ctrl V to paste that copied selection into our document. So that will show up on your layers palette, and if you can't see your layers palette, just hit F7 on your keyboard or go down to Window, go down to Layers. Mine's just off screen, so I'm just going to bring it in for you to have a look at. And as you can see, we've now got a layer 1 along with our background. So you probably can't distinguish it at the moment because it's just overlaid over the original selection. But we're now easily and quickly going to make a reflection. So what I'm going to do is hit Ctrl T, the keyboard, and remember I've got layer 1 selected. All I'm going to do is click in this midpoint here, click on it and then drag it downwards. You can see we squash that layer 1, revealing the background layer. But as I keep going down and past, it flips it, so we get this nice reflected look. I'm just going to keep dragging it a little bit further past the document bound and then release. So once I've done that, all I have to do is just hit return on my keyboard. The reflection will probably look a little bit more compressed than the sky, but that's what we want. We want to get that effect of a low camera angle looking at the car. So we can now move on to bringing in the Corvette. So if I just cascade that and then bring up the Corvette, this is a TIFF file. Make sure I have layer 2 selected, and this is the Corvette that we've made a selection of with the pen tool from the original shot. And just to make things a little bit easier and quicker for you, we can now just easily drag that onto our background layer. So go to your toolbox, click on the move tool, make sure you've got layer 2 selected there, click on the Corvette and then just drag it out and towards your background JPEG. You'll see the icon change. Once that changes, just hit release, and we've now transported our Corvette into our new composite scene. So with the move tool, I can now move that layer around. It's now called layer 2, and what I'm going to do is just move it nicely into position. Probably something round about there will do, and then release. So it's starting to come together. The car still looks like it's just been pasted on, and when you start to look closely at it, it needs to be transformed a little bit more. There's something not quite right with the perspective and the angle. It's pointing downwards a little bit, and we want it to look so it's sitting flat on the reflection. So the first thing I want to do is set up a guide, and then we can level out the car so it's sitting flat on our reflection. So from the ruler along the top there, if you can't see your rulers, just hit Control R, your rulers will pop up. Just going to click on it and then drag down, and we'll sort of reveal this guide, and we can drag it down all the way. Don't worry, this isn't a permanent thing on your image. You can easily hide these, and then until you get to the front wheel of the Corvette, just release. And as you can see, that rear wheel is lifted up in the air. It looks like it's lifted up in the air. So what I'm going to do, hit Control T, making sure we've got layer 2 selected, and what I'm going to do at the bottom right hand corner is just click and pull that downwards, and we've leveled the car up. I'm not going to hit return just yet because I still want to do a few other things. I just want to play around the perspective a little just to get it looking a little bit more natural on how it would do if it was in the actual scene. So I'm going to go to Edit, Transform, and I'm going to select Perspective. All I'm going to do is go up to the top left hand point and then just drag it out to the left. And as you can see, we start to sort out the perspective of the car a bit. That wheel it's got to lean inwards is now looking more upright. So that's working out nicely. So just a little bit more maybe, it's probably too much. Round about there. Then release. Don't hit return just yet. I'm going to make one final adjustment because the front of the car looks a little bit too prominent. I'm just going to knock that back a bit. So I'm going to go to Edit again, Transform. This time I'm going to hit Skew. And then from the same point as I change the perspective, I'm just going to push that point downwards a little bit. And that just reduces that nicely. So in just a couple of small minor movements, we've really changed the appearance of the Corvette so it looks a lot more natural in the scene. So I'm now finally going to hit return, and those actions are going to be applied properly. There we go. Right, we now want to make a reflection of the Corvette now we've made those adjustments to it. Rather than making a selection, all I'm going to do with layer 2 still selected is go to Layer, Duplicate Layer, and you can change the name of it if you want, but I'm just going to hit OK, and we've got a layer 2 copy there now. So with that layer 2 copy selected, all I'm going to do is hit Control T again, and as we did with the sky, just drag that middle point downwards so it gets squashed and then flips. Probably a little bit more. And then release. I now want to, as you can see, it now looks like the reflection's floating because the wheels aren't meeting. So all I'm going to do is with the move tool, just click on it and then just move it up a little bit more until, yeah, around about there. I'm just going to use the arrow keys just to really fine tune that. So I'm just using the up arrow key, and with that in place, I'm just going to hit return. Right, that guide's looking quite annoying, so I'm just going to get rid of that by going to View, Show, and then Show Guides, and untick that, and our guide's disappeared. Depending where you position the car, you might see the horses in the background shining through. So just click on layer 1, and then we can easily brush these out. So select the brush tool, make sure you've got black as your foreground colour. Just going to increase the brush using the right square brackets key to around about 150, And as it's the bottom layer, it won't affect the Corvette. So when we brush through, yeah, we've just got rid of those horses. Right, we now want to merge 3 layers. We want to leave layer 2 on its own so it's unaffected when we make our reflection and displacement map. So to blend the other 3 layers together, all I'm going to do is hold down Control and click on layer 2 copy and background. So those 3 layers are now highlighted and they're all linked together. So what I'm going to do now is then go to layer and then merge layers, and that will now leave us with 2 individual layers. We've got our background layer, which now incorporates the reflection and the reflection of the Corvette, and layer 2, which is our Corvette. If I just hide that, you can see that's our background layer and that's layer 2. Right, so I'm going to make sure I've got the background layer selected, and we can now add our displacement map. I'm just going to maximize this so we've got a bit of a clearer view of what's going on. So I'm going to go back to the rectangular marquee tool, click on it, and then all I'm going to do is drag out. So make a selection, probably just down a bit more, yeah, to about there. So we're just going to apply a reflection or displacement map to this area here. Remember, as the Corvette, the upright Corvette, is on a separate layer, it's not going to be affected by our displacement map and reflection. I'm going to feather this slightly, this selection, so I'm going to go to Refine Edge, knock it down to around about 40 pixels, hit OK, and we can now add our displacement map. So what I'm going to do is go to Filter, Distort, Displace. Okay, you can play around with these inputs yourself, but I've worked out, or for this shot, it's about 15 to 30. So horizontal scale is 15, vertical scale is 30. You want the displacement map as set stretch to fit, and repeat edge pixels. So click on that, and we now need to select our displacement map. So from the CD, either drop it onto your desktop, this water.psd file, or put it in a folder you can easily find, click on it, and then hit open. As you can see, what it will do is apply this nice distorted reflection to our shot. I'm going to hit Ctrl D to get rid of that selection. Right, you can make a couple of finishing touches if you'd like as well. I'm just going to zoom in on the Corvette, move it there, make sure I've got layer 2 selected. What I'm going to do is just get rid of some of that background mess. So what I'm going to do is select the brush tool. I'm going to have an opacity of around about 30. I want a much smaller brush, so I'm going to use the left square brackets key to reduce that down to about 60. And now I'm going to hit Alt to use the colour picker. I'm going to click in there, and I'm just going to lightly brush over that bit there. So that just takes that down again. Click there, and then just brush in. Probably spend a bit more time on it than me. That's working nicely. Just dulling that down so it's not so obvious in our shot. I'm going to do it again here. Just click Alt to use the colour picker, and then you can carry on using the brush as normal. Right, I think that's done. I'm just going to zoom out, and there we go, our final composite image. I think you'll agree it's a vast improvement on our standard shot. We've managed to blend a series of elements together to produce a much more dramatic image. The key is to make sure that the perspective is spot on for each element, and you have a clear idea what you want to achieve. With that in mind, why don't you have a go at doing your own composite image and send your examples to us? Anyway, hope you've enjoyed it, and see you again soon. Cheers!